and welcome back to another video. And if you couldn't tell by that intro, yes, for those of you, all of you who have been asking, I am an Olympic gymnast. I thought that was clear. Now, in all seriousness, that was not my best showing, but that was kind of the point, right? So, this is the first episode in what I'm calling my new series, my Myth-Bust Monday series, Quarantine Edition. So the goal of this series, if this is your first time to the channel, if this is your first time with this particular series, the goal is going to be to debunk a lot of the big questions out there in the fitness industry. And when I say debunk, I really mean just give my opinion, let y'all know what I'm feeling, and encourage you to think for yourself at the end of the day. But I wanted to take this time of sort of unique circumstances when we have access to less, and specifically address some of those training questions, some of those diet questions that maybe are geared more towards making things a bit more complicated than they need to be. Case in point, we don't have a gym to work out in right now, so we got to make the best with what we have. And for many of you, myself included to a degree, that means doing a lot more body weight training. That means using a lot less equipment. My gentlemen out there, that probably means lifting a lot lighter weights, if any weights at all. This first episode is going to be all about how you can stay fit without the gym regardless, and it's going to answer the question of, do you really need the gym at all to stay fit? So stay tuned, we're gonna dive right into this talk. I'll catch you guys in a minute. So before we jump into the rest of the video, this one is gonna mark the beginning of a new series that I'm putting on. I'm calling it my Mythbuster Mondays. And just to go over what that's gonna look like real fast, I'm basically gonna take a lot of the questions that you guys have been asking, a lot of the questions that we've all been trying to figure out for maybe even a couple of years now. Basically the hot topics in the fitness industry right now and some of the enduring questions. And you really give my take on it. There's a lot of misinformation in the industry. I'm sure there's a lot of things that you yourselves are confused about and wondering truly what is right and what is wrong. But quick disclaimer before we go any further, whatever conclusion, whatever verdict we reach at the end of these videos is purely my opinion, whether I'm backing up with scientific evidence. At the end of the day, it's still subjective. It's still what I think. And all I'm looking to do, my end goal, is to get you guys to think for yourself, to take the evidence that I'm presenting, to take the opinion that I'm giving you, and just think about it. Decide what makes sense and decide how best you want to move forward and apply that to your fitness journey and to your life as a whole. So with that being said, we're going to dive right into today's topic. I figured that we would start this series off with something that was just super basic, and given the current circumstances with the coronavirus and the quarantine, something that is sort of really relevant and, for lack of a better word, near and dear to our hearts right now. And that is, how can we stay on track with our fitness goals without access to the gym, the equipment that we used to use, and really just with this huge disruption in our normal routine? Now, the question that I really want to answer here is, do you need the gym to stay fit? And in order to answer that question, we sort of need to address two things, all right? Well, first of all, what does it mean to be fit? And I know what you're thinking, that's a really subjective question. It's going to be different from one person to the next. So I figured that in these videos, we're going to take the most standardized approach that we can. So I'm going to give a general definition of fitness, according to me, and according to a lot of scientific literature as well. And sort of take that definition, apply it to the gym, and what does the gym represent? What does it offer? How does it contribute to an individual's overall fitness? What does it mean to be fit from a general perspective? Well, to be fit in my mind encompasses four main things. Now, number one is going to be an adequate level of physical strength, right? Number two is going to be an adequate level of flexibility. Number three is going to be some level of stability. And number four is going to be cardiovascular health. Now, I'm going to define each one of those, and I'm going to sort of give you an idea of how different modalities in the gym, as well as modalities at home, can contribute to improving each and every one of those categories, and by extension, your overall fitness. Let's take the easiest one first, your cardiovascular health. What does that really mean? So cardio obviously is going to refer to your heart. And when I say cardio, most of you think running on a treadmill, a stair stepper, an elliptical, maybe a spin bike, or maybe simply just walking, right? Those are all forms of cardio. Anything that is going to strengthen the heart muscle and by extension, increase the body's ability to pump blood, transport oxygen, and basically increase the amount of work that your muscles can do, right? So a healthier heart, a stronger heart, one with greater cardiovascular health is more efficient and more powerful. Your heart, like any other muscle, the more you make it work, the more it beats, the stronger the muscle itself gets. The more blood it can pump with that beat, the more oxygen it can transport, the better overall health you have. So how do you increase your cardiovascular health? How do you make your heart beat faster, essentially? Well, I just outlined a few different ways that you can do that. Pick your favorite machine at the gym, and pretty much pick any other outdoor, out of the gym equivalent, and you're going to get the same result, right? So if you like to run on a treadmill, obviously we can run outside. And you might have a little bit of a limited capacity to do that with the quarantine going on, but chances are you've got a neighborhood nearby, or you've got a park that's at least somewhat opened, or maybe you've got a treadmill in your house that you can use. But basically that's a real easy one to solve. Even if you're thinking like, well, my joints hurt, I can't run on pavements, chances are you can walk. Maybe you only like to spin. Well, do you have a bike? You can take that outside, you can go for a ride. Maybe you're a stair stepper addict. If that's you, honestly, you're beyond me. I can think of nothing less exciting than walking up an endless case of stairs, but I'm sure you can find one around your neighborhood, or maybe even like a low wall that you can do step-ups on. Bottom line, you know what I'm getting at. It's easy to increase your cardiovascular health. You do not need a gym, you do not need special equipment. You just need to do something that is going to elevate your heart rate and keep it there for a certain period of time. It doesn't have to be a super long time, but getting your heart rate high, holding it there, and then letting it slowly come back down, that recovery process, that push followed by that recovery process is going to lead to cardiovascular health gains. It's going to lead to strengthening your heart. So that's an easy one to answer. Yes, you can absolutely increase your cardiovascular fitness without any special equipment in the gym. Not needed. Now, the other three are sort of tied together, so we'll talk about them all at once. Flexibility is a pretty obvious one. A lot of us think of things like yoga and static stretching and putting your foot behind your head when I say flexibility. And all of those are components of flexibility. At the end of the day, flexibility is your ability to move a joint through its full range of motion. So to take an example here, in a squat, your full range of motion will be going from a full stand. Your hips are in a straight line, right? And then you're going to bend the knees, you're going to drop the hips, and you're going to go all the way down till you have a 90-degree parallel quad. By definition, straight line from the knee all the way to the hip. That's going to be the baseline of your squat. That's a full range of motion. Now, depending on who you ask, some people are going to argue that you should be going as low as possible. So below 90 degrees, a lot of times we call this an ass to grass squat. That's really going to depend on you, and that actually feeds into the stability aspect that I'm going to talk about in a minute, so more on that in a second. But by definition, your squat is going to finish at 90 degrees. So there's your range of motion. Flexibility, simply your ability to go from point A to point B within a certain range of motion. Now, stability is your body's ability to control that range of motion. So flexibility is movement through a joint's range of motion. Stability has to do with the muscles that are responsible for performing that movement, their ability to stabilize it, to make it safe. So just because you have a great range of motion doesn't mean that you have a stable range of motion. Maybe you're someone that is an avid yoga practitioner and you can do what I sort of jokingly said, put your foot behind your head, or you can go all the way down and stick your tailbone on the floor when you squat. But, try that same squatting motion with a little bit of weight, maybe some light dumbbells or even a bar across the shoulders. A lot of times that same person isn't going to be able to go down as far. Their muscles aren't used to the extra load. They're stable with just the body weight, but when you add anything external, anything extra, they don't have the strength to stabilize throughout the same range of motion. So flexibility, stability, those go hand in hand. It's really not good to be too far on one end of the spectrum. So a lot of you that complain about having tight hips or having pain in your low back, that more often than not is due to a lack of flexibility, perhaps some overactive or underactive muscles. That's a conversation for another time. But the point that I'm making here is you want to have sort of an equilibrium between flexibility and stability. Now, lastly, I know I haven't talked about how you can maintain these things in or outside the gym, but we're going to get there in a second. What is strength?
To put this in the simplest terms possible, strength training is simply a type of physical exercise specializing in the use of resistance to induce muscular contraction. So basically what this means is strength training is an umbrella category. Broadly speaking, something like weight training can actually fall under that umbrella as a subcategory of strength training. In the case of weight training, we're using free weights like dumbbells, barbells, or maybe even machines as a form of resistance that is, being pushed or pulled or maybe even stabilized via muscular contraction. Now, the cool thing is, especially given the circumstances of right now where we don't have access to a lot of those materials and those gadgets, if you will, that we might be used to using in the gym, is that strength training resistance can come in so many different forms, including one that we're all most familiar with, which is actually our own body weight. On a day-to-day basis, we move from point A to point B, we stand up, we sit down, we push, we pull, we do so many things, including just standing still is all us working against resisting, muscles pushing, pulling, muscles contracting, muscles stabilizing. So, given that we don't have access to all of those things, the good news is strength training, no, it does not require weights, it only requires your body, and there are many, many ways that we can make that resistance with just your body weight incredibly challenging.
Strength, broadly speaking, is the body's ability to generate force throughout a range of motion. So it's your conscious ability to engage muscles, to push, to pull, or to hold. Hold would be an isometric movement, and to generate force throughout that motion. So your muscular strength is in part going to be responsible for your body's ability to stabilize. That, in conjunction with stability and flexibility, are going to contribute to what we would call a functional range of motion. One that is powerful, one that is efficient, and one that is controlled. Now, how do we build up our strength? That's a question that I get probably more than any other, and it's asked in the lens or in the context of, do I need to lift weights to strength train? Are strength training and weightlifting synonymous? And truthfully, and thankfully, given the current environment, the answer is no. Strength training is exactly what I just defined it at. The ability to generate force, of the muscles to generate force throughout a range of motion. Are you generating force throughout a range of motion when you do a push-up? Yeah. Are you doing the same when you do a bench press? Absolutely. What about a barbell squat versus a bodyweight squat? Answer to both is yes. So, what's the difference? Well, conscious control of muscular activation. So if you can train the mind to more effectively activate different motor units, different muscle fibers, basically what is needed to perform a specific task, if you can train the mind through consciously focusing on, those muscles that are needed for that specific task, then your body is going to get more efficient at, one, activating the muscles needed, two, minimizing any extraneous movement, i.e. muscles that are not needed and are going to detract from the motion, use up energy that could be contributed towards the muscles that are actually working. And number three, it's going to build up what we call a muscle memory pattern. Conscious movement has the purpose of building muscle memory. Muscle memory is just your body's ability to reproduce the same result, performing the same task, with less conscious thought. And all of that contributes to more efficiency. More efficiency, more power, more stability, more control, and ultimately a safer, better in every way range of motion. Mastering movement does not require equipment. does not require strength training machinery, it does not require free weights, it does not require barbells, resistance bands, or anything else. Mastering movement requires your mind. Your mind, hopefully, is always present. Even in this quarantine, even locked in your room, or wherever it is you're holed away, you have access to this. And you can increase your overall fitness, your strength, your flexibility, your stability, your cardiovascular health by doing activities as I've described outside of the gym.
In fact, renowned coach and kinesiologist Dr. Brett Contreras goes into great depth on this subject in his book, Bodyweight Strength Training Anatomy, where he says, and I quote, "While I'm a huge proponent of using all types of resistance, bodyweight training is without a doubt the most convenient type of resistance. You can gain tremendous functional fitness in terms of strength, power, balance, and endurance from progressive bodyweight training, and recent research shows that you can enhance your flexibility to the same or even a greater degree through resistance training than from a stretching routine."
Really, the cardio takes care of itself. That's a no-brainer. The other three, those are going to be things that you can develop to a very high degree without ever putting weight on your shoulders. And I would go further to argue that if you don't feel very comfortable in a bodyweight squat or a push-up, if you're not capable of taking those movements to a point where they're challenging, then you're not doing them correctly. You're not activating the muscles the way that you should, and you really have no business doing a weighted push-up or doing a bench press or doing a squat with any sort of weight at all, because it's just not going to be effective. Master the movements at the basic level. Learn to connect mind to muscle. These are things that you can practice in your closet, literally. And that's more than anything what I am advising clients to do right now. Take this time and work on things that you wouldn't have thought to work on before. Things that you were distracted from working on simply because you had too many options. All those machines, all those shiny weights, they're only helpful, they're only necessary if you've mastered the basics. So in summary, general fitness is something that you can absolutely achieve without ever setting foot in the gym. There's ways to improve in all environments, and no matter how restrictive you feel this environment is today, there's always something you can do. And for the vast majority of you, you're absolutely going to be able to stay fit and increase all of those aspects to fitness across the board, in my mind, tremendously if you train in the right capacity. So in conclusion, for our first Mythbuster Monday, no, you do not need the gym, in my humble opinion, to stay fit and to further your fitness. Even in this incredibly restrictive environment, there are ways for you to improve. There are ways for you to improve by leaps and bounds, my friends, and absolutely no reason to feel discouraged. So take that for what it's worth. I'm sure there are many of you out there that don't even have to deal with this because you have access to a lot of equipment in home gyms, or maybe you're sneaking in somewhere, but that one's on you. Anyways, this is where I'm going to sign off. If this is something that you guys enjoy, please leave a comment below. I would love to do more of these videos. In fact, I have quite a few planned. A lot of them are going to be relevant to the quarantine and the environment that it has created. So if this in particular was helpful and you have some questions, some concerns that are pertinent to quarantine, leave them down there and maybe we'll make a video on that. But with that being said, best of luck with all of your fitness goals out there, my friends. And I really hope that this helped you guys feel like not only can I achieve those goals and keep pushing forward, but maybe it gave you some new ideas. And if you're feeling stuck and you were a competitive athlete and you're like, shoot, I have this competition, I have this show coming up, and I'm going to have to put that on hold. Really take a deep dive look and ask yourself, is there any way that I can maybe even take a small step forward towards those goals to make me a little bit better when I'm ready to jump back in when this all blows over? Thanks so much for listening, you guys, and I will catch you in the next video.